So our assignment now is to create a spacecraft using 3D forms. And also, once we get a spacecraft down, we got to make a composition. And again, like our last 2D assignment, is have a human character or humanish character in there, be it alien or present or way future. Assuming way future as we make up our own spacecraft and such. So here's some roughs I've been playing with and to get some ideas where to go. So my first real scribble hard to see is kind of a dragonfly idea. I'm quite sure that was taken. I think there was a show called Dragonfly that was all about a spacecraft that looked like that. So I tried some other bug sort of shapes, like this one here. I've kind of got a very mechanical, futuristic kind of ladybug, and having some, scale panels and things to look at mechanical and little landing gear and the control thing being kind of bug-eyed, bug face, but to look mechanical and such to be a spacecraft. So these are things that, play around. Just as I was showing, discovering from those 3D forms and even 2D shapes to come up with some ideas. But trying to get an interesting silhouette, and maybe I think this wasn't really working. It's still kind of a little blobby. This one here, playing around with ideas, some kind of jet engines and things, or thrusters in the back here, trying to come up with ideas. And believe it or not, the inspiration for this one was a razor, electric razor. And just to show you here, I've got mine, and I think using this gave me the idea of that shape. I kind of did this from memory and just using the concept of an everyday thing and kind of play with that. So even this one, I didn't think I was getting a lot of silhouette to really make it as interesting as possible. So again, with the razor, it's got the 3 heads. I kind of had 2 to be more of a command module or places where pilots would sit. Scale for your spacecraft. It can be large. It can be like a 1-man, 2-man sort of little cruiser thing, wide open where you can go with it. So when playing around with this, I kind of found this shape. It really had some silhouette to it. Because as the last video, we're showing some iconic shapes and things. And the Star Trek Enterprise having, some real interesting components to make it have an interesting silhouette and make it very iconic. So this one here, I kind of had 2 large discs kind of connected with some pieces, and then kind of have my own variation of a little saucer thing up here, a little wing, what have you. So that one started, yeah, it's got an interesting silhouette to it, so maybe I could play around with that one. So doing some little thumbnails, exploring some possibilities, finding some directions, being inspired, taking a look like the last video, looking at existing things that spacecraft and things that are inspiring, not cheating or tracing or whatever. It's just coming up with some concepts, getting some ideas. So this one kind of sprung an idea. And one of the things I find that helped me when I'm coming up with something creative is even though it's a unique situation or whatever, try to base it on some reality. So in this one, I'm trying to find functionality, like what's the purpose of these spacecraft? And maybe that'll help influence refining the design or getting a direction. So this one, kind of like this, played around with that, and I gave it a purpose. Bell TV spacecraft, and these are big signal discs or whatever, and trying to work on little antennae and little scoops and things like this, just to make it as interesting as possible. So looking at any mechanical things can be inspirational and give you some ideas, but this one definitely had some unique silhouette shape to it. So starting to think about shapes or 3D forms and how they can be compiled together. Another idea I thought was kind of thought of sail ships and thinking that maybe mechanical sort of triangular shapes here. Maybe it operates from solar collection or whatever, and these sails help do that, even though it's got some thrusters and things back here for fast getaways. Not sure what this is. Maybe a smaller scale, that maybe this has 1 or 2 kind of like a fighter craft or smaller aircraft sort of thing, but still has space concept in mind here. So anyways, this is starting to have some interesting silhouette and such to it. But functionality and trying to figure out, well, where's the subject? Where can I go with this? Always like the idea of, what's the use of anything that you're drawing? What's it used for? What's the purpose of it? So start playing around with another idea and coming up with the idea of a garbage truck. I see them go by every week and thought of, okay, what was that? Was a spacecraft garbage truck and is collecting space garbage. So kind of looked at putting some ideas together there. Using basic forms, so got a cube, got some semicircles here, or half spheres, whatever, to kind of work that up, and some wing bits. But the big thing was that I could get these mechanical arms coming out and that they're picking up space scrap and things floating around. So something fun, something that gives you an idea to really run with, and then looking at the mechanics of it, and and the purpose, and figuring out scale. So this is a larger scale, just from the size of the windows. That could be a several crew on here, out cleaning up scrap. So the next thing was, okay, I started to narrow down on some shapes. 3D forms to get a spacecraft down. Now I'll start putting a composition. So I wanted to get a human character in there, and I wanted to give more functionality and kind of give it a setting. So I started playing with this one, but thinking of all of the elements and principles of design, I started to look at this and going, where can it improve? And one of that was focus. And I found that, and then size and proportion. And I found that the human character was the same size as my spacecraft. There was no dominance. It was kind of hodgepodge everywhere. So I wanted to kind of rescale things to try and make one of them stand out more. So kind of worked on it a bit more and reconfigured things, but still I really didn't get too much contrast happening here. Some fun ideas were coming up with all the drawings I was doing, like having it picking up a TV that was floating around in space. I kind of have the Earth here in the background without any detail, a little bit of the moon over here, and just thinking and just trying to find some interesting things that would be floating around in space that this would be coming up. And I've tried some different shapes here. I kind of combined a few of my ideas, trying to rework things and playing with the scale. And then coming up with a name. So, instead of, I think the first one was Scrap X2 or whatever. So here I thought about green space. I thought that would be a fun play on words that were actually in space and trying to clean things up. So is it really green? No, but the concept of it is. Anyway, so I wasn't really liking my floating astronaut here and how he was picking up garbage. So rethought that all again and start to work things out. So, I've made this spacecraft a little smaller. I got my astronaut character a little larger here, and trying to get a more interesting silhouette on the character. This one, I think, looking at the silhouette, it really wasn't telling the story or really reading well. So this one, I tried to get him so that he was in a more interesting pose that would read better, just in silhouette without the detail. So this started to appeal to me a bit more. And then kind of layering it, I kind of had the spacecraft a little further in the distance, the astronaut a little closer, and then some of the space debris and garbage up close so that you can kind of focus on one thing and then the next and work a way around on that. So from there, start to like this. So worked it up a little bit more. So again, this is a process I hope you're going through. Going through some thumbnails, some very small roughs, and then working up larger, and then starting to add the elements and piece them together. And then, kind of working, I'm starting to like what was happening. So I was now really doing a working drawing, trying to find my 3D forms. So I'm looking for my ellipses for the detail of components, seeing that, I've got a garbage can, looking for the ellipse and what angle it's on and trying to work that out. My can, same idea. I have an ellipse, and to give it depth, it has another ellipse here which is joined up, and then working this line down and having that ellipse again, and another ellipse, and having the bottom of the can. So structure, drawing through, trying to find structure. Once I've come up with the idea, I can do some rough ideas, not worrying about that. And then once I've got my creative idea and I like the concept and where I'm going and what I'm doing, then I can concentrate on the structure of things and using my 3D forms to come up with an illustration that hopefully is believable, even if it's fanciful. That because the detail and the structure of things look like it's possible, that I'm not doing make-believe structure and things like that. I'm trying to be accurate even though it's something that doesn't exist. I'm trying to fool the audience into believing into what I'm doing. So again, the composition is coming up with something, a moment in time that tells a little bit of a story. So here we have our garbage collector astronaut, and he's out with his garbage can. So I've got a combination of futuristic and kind of current or old technology, old regular garbage can here. And so I got to, think of what does a garbage can look like and kind of use it as some sort of reference and working on that. And then getting some garbage inside, make sure the garbage fits inside and not doesn't look like it works. So it's trying to make it work as accurate as you can. Then the mechanics of that spacecraft, and again, I wanted to make it look big and bulky, and had these two little stairs and the window, the doors, and the one open, showing that here's the tether that is connecting the astronaut with the garbage craft and working away. As people inside the craft here are picking up old space capsules and TVs and little satellites and things like that, and then the astronaut out picking up some other garbage and such. Okay, so from here, so it's working all that out and really working out placement. And again, I've done a few drawings trying to get sizing and things working. And then I really, once I've found placement and sizing, and I really want to work it out and make sure that structure works. So drawing through and finding those shapes, those 3D forms, and making it all work. And again, you've got to do this. So before you do the final cleanup, that when you do the final cleanup, that it makes sense, that it works from a structural point of view, and you worked all that out. So then when you go to the final, you're just worried about cleanup line. So here's all of the creative exploration drawings and things to get to where we're happy enough with it that we're going to do, once we get this really worked out that you like it, do a very careful pencil or blue pencil tracing, again using this light box, that you can trace it off very lightly in blue, and then do your cleanup over top, just like the sample I did of the 2D drawing with the tugboat captain, and that one where I cleaned that up. Same process. So on this one, already done it, so I'm not going to go through that, but again, all this kind of lines up to a degree, and even at this point, you can still shuffle things around and get spacing right, because as you can see, if I line up my spacecraft to my blue underneath, the astronaut doesn't quite fit, and so I shuffled him around trying to get the best positioning such for him and the other components. So I'll turn this off so we can just look at the cleanup line for the most part. And again, when you're doing the cleanup, making sure it's representing each of the pieces. And if you've really worked out structure, that we look at the 3D forms, and we can tell that the arms are cylindrical and the ends of the gloves, ends of the boots and things, and that's all working out. and that we got good solid components here. And trying to have fun with it. Again, I wanted a function for mine. You can do whatever you like, and what's happening in your scene. I might have made it maybe a little clustered here. You can make it less clustered for sure, but the main focus is you have a spacecraft and you have a human character with this. I have mine floating in space. Yours can be on a landing craft. It could be docking onto another spacecraft. Again, it could be any kind of function. Think of practical or what's a use for the spacecraft, or it could be a pleasure craft, like whatever, but it's got to be able to tell a story. And mine, I came with what was strong for me, telling a story that what if in the future and all the space garbage and things that we've got a vehicle, space vehicle that takes care of that, and the astronaut who's doing his job. So and having some fun with it. I got an apple core here, which has a worm in it, but even the worm has a little astronaut helmet on, so he's a worm in space. So yeah, I might have made mine too complex, but again, just to give you some ideas, some inspiration, some goals. So if you're ambitious, you can go ahead and do a full scene like this. Otherwise, make sure the mandate of a spacecraft's interesting shapes, 3D forms that created it. Trying to keep the silhouette interesting. And again, mine's kind of blocky, but it's all little arms and things coming out. It's making an interesting silhouette. And even the character, interesting silhouette and pose and activity that makes it interesting. And again, lots to be thinking about, lots to put together. But that's not only the purpose for animation. Like, take this was a scene out of a big animated movie or whatever. Here's all the action. That's why doing the 11x17 horizontally, that this could be a frame out of a film and all the action going on. So think of it that way. But this whole process is the same. It doesn't matter if it is just an illustration or if it's a comic strip or comic book piece or whatever. Go through the same process. So we have transferable skills. We're animation 3D, and here we're doing flat drawings to simulate 3D to come up with story and concept and design. So we're going to practice all of the disciplines and get that working. Okay, so hopefully this one's clear, and we can well, again, we'll review this in Zoom meeting to make sure any concepts or ideas you have, we can discuss them then and see what's acceptable and get going on it. So this will be another 2-week project that you'll have deadline-wise, and yeah, we'll go from there. So good luck, and I'm hoping the subject matter is fun. And by all means, make it as fun as you can. And the perimeters are basic, and you can interpret that any way you like and have fun with it. Okay? Great. Good luck.